Hello and welcome to this tutorial on how to make this pushable block that is affected by gravity and interacts with walls. So first of all, let's create a new level. Then we are gonna set this to platformer. I'm gonna set a spawn group so we don't spawn down there with the plebs. And now we should spawn up here. Great. And then I'm going to build a little area right here just so we can test the block out. Like that, kind of, something like this. So first things first, we place this block, we give it a group ID, then we go to a new layer. This is the block that we want to push. This guy needs a move trigger to be moved, and it needs something to detect whether it's being pushed or not. So first we're gonna do the left side, so when we push from the left side, we push the block to the right. Right? So let's scale this down and move it a little bit to the left, so we can only activate this from the left. This move trigger is gonna move 6,000 units to the right in 100 seconds. The reason I use these values is because I experimented a bit and they felt pretty good. So this gets activated by group ID 3 and it's spawn and multi-triggered. So group ID 3 needs to be selected in the collision state block. Then we make sure that these both have group ID 2 and now it can be pushed. But obviously we don't want it to be pushed for 100 seconds. We want it to stop once we exit. When we exit this ID gets activated, so we can use that by deactivating group ID 3 with a stop trigger. So group ID 3 gets stopped. Then we make the spawn and multi, give this a new ID, which is group ID 4. Group ID 4 is selected here in the collision. So when we exit, group ID 4 gets activated, which is the stop trigger, and it stops the movement once we exit. So that's one half of this done. Then we copy paste this, remove group ID 2 real quick, then we build helper, and then we reapply group ID 2, move this a little bit to the right, change this to minus, and now it should work for both sides. Awesome. Next thing we need to do is the wall collision, which for that we will go to a new layer, then give this guy a collision trigger, make sure to give the block ID so it also moves. +1 on this ID, make it dynamic, and get another collision block, give it a new block ID, and this block ID too is gonna be the collision for all of the left side walls. Also make sure to move this one mini step down so it doesn't activate when the block is right on top. And all of these were left-hand walls. This one is a right-hand wall, and and for that reason it needs a new block ID. So next we need a stop trigger and a collision trigger. The collision trigger should be here and the stop trigger should be here. So this block will move to the left until it hits this thing, right? And then it needs to stop the left movement. So the left movement is this upper move trigger with the minus and the group ID 5. So we need to stop group ID 5, and the stop trigger needs to be activated by group 7, which is this collision trigger, which checks if group 1 and 2 have collided. And it needs to activate group. And also remember to put the stop trigger on spawn and multi. So now this should stop the movement, but if we hit it again, then it moves again, which is not what we want. So what we have to do is we have to toggle off this move trigger completely. So we basically do the same thing like the stop trigger, but with a toggle trigger. So we toggle this move trigger spawn multi and activate it by the collision trigger group. So now, as you can see, the move trigger disappears once we hit the wall. There we go, and then it's completely gone. All awesome. But when we move it back, which works, and then we want to move it left again, then it doesn't work. So we need to fix that, we copy paste the collision and the toggle and make it so that when 1 and 2 collide, but we make a trigger on exit, so when it does not collide anymore, so when the block is not on the wall anymore, then this gets activated and activates the move trigger back. It's a bit confusing to talk about that. Oh yeah, also make sure to give this guy a new ID. So now the move trigger should disappear. You can push it as much as you want, it does not phase in, and if we move it away from the wall, then the move trigger gets activated again, and we can move the block left again. Awesome. Then we need to do the same thing for the right wall, because right now it does not work. So let's copy paste this. Then we need to do the same thing, but for the other move trigger, which is this one, which is group 3 and not group 5. So let's set these from 5 to 3. And then we need to give these guys new groups as well. And this guy is gonna be 10. And now it should work for the right side as well, or not, because of course we need to change the collision to 3, not 2. And yeah, now that works perfectly. Let's test it like this again. And it works. Awesome. So that's the second step done, but we still need the gravitation. So the gravity is pretty simple. We need a collision. We basically just need to check the collision of this and the ground. So we already have a collision trigger for the block, for the pushable block, so we just need another one for all the grounds. So this is gonna be block ID 4, and then we just copy paste this all over the grounds. And then we need a collision trigger again and a move trigger. So this move trigger is gonna apply gravity, but it's only gonna be activated when 1 and 4 are not colliding. So trigger on exit, and it's gonna be activated. And this is gonna be 11 with spawn and multi. 11. And this is gonna apply movement to group 2, which is the block. And I figured out the movements 1 second for 150 blocks. Also, don't forget easing. Easing makes this look so much better. Sign in. And that's that. As you can see, it needs to collide with the next ground level. So what we need to do is copy the collision trigger, deactivate trigger on exit, and we need to make this move trigger stop. This move trigger has group 11, so this needs to stop group 11, make it spawn and multi, give it its own ID, which is 12, and then update this collision to 12. And now that should work. Awesome. Let's also play it in normal mode, just to show that it's not just in the editor. And it works perfectly. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I will upload this level unlisted on my Geometry Dash account, and the ID for this is going to be in the description. I hope you enjoyed this. See ya.